Today's session is, of course, for all learners, but especially for many learners and those learners, even at the intermediate or lower advanced levels, who basically stumble on punctuation, word usage, and sentence structure. Now, fortunately, there are quick memory tools known as mnemonics that make these rules stick in your mind much more easily. By consciously applying these mnemonics, you can boost the clarity and accuracy of your spoken and written English without getting lost in grammar textbooks, etc. And just so we understand how to pronounce this word, which looks a little strange to everyone, we pronounce it mnemonics. Mnemonics, right? So today we have 15 of them for you to help you master your English grammar. Welcome to Mastering English Communication. Get your pad, get your pencil, and of course, let's get started. First up, we have FANBOYS. FANBOYS, which stands for F-O-R, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, Y-E-T, and so, S-O. Now, these words connect items or independent clauses of equal weight. Since you're studying English, you obviously are studying the construction of sentences, so that's why I'm mentioning in particular independent clauses and such. Now, whenever you form compound sentences, you rely on these coordinating conjunctions, let's call them. For example, I want to watch a movie, but I still have work to finish. Remember FANBOYS when deciding how to glue two complete ideas together simply and coherently. I want to watch a movie, but I still have work to finish. So now we have something different. We have 2 and 3, right? Or numbers 2 and 3. And both of these lists remind you of words that turn an independent clause into a dependent clause. For instance, because it was raining, I stayed indoors. Without because, you simply have it was raining, which could stand alone. Adding because clarifies why you made that decision. By internalizing, as I will call it, AWUBIS or SWABI, you'll be more adept at forming complex sentences that show cause, contrast, time, and condition. So before we leave this slide, let's just take a quick look at AWUBIS. Although, after, as, when, while, until, because, before, if, and since. And now number 3 of our mnemonics, SWABI. Since, when, although, because, and if. Right? So remember these two. They will help you actually when you are looking at things like subordinating conjunctions. Next up, we have THAMOs. This is one that is about conjunctive adverbs. This will help you connect two independent clauses in a way that reveals the relationship between them. Often you'll spot them after a semicolon and before a comma. Once again, you'll spot them after a semicolon and before a comma, like in, he studied all night, therefore he aced the test. So understanding THAMOs helps you link ideas smoothly, providing logical flow and clarity in your writing. Let's just go over each of these. Number one, therefore, it shows conclusion. Next, however, indicates contrast. Next, also, you're adding information. Next, we have meanwhile, shows sequence. And then lastly, we have otherwise, which indicates necessity. Now, if you're finding this content useful, please give us a like. Thank you. Here we have number 5. I before E, except after C. I remember learning this when I was much younger. All right. This was a spelling rule. And so the rule, I before E, except after C, or when sounding like I, A-Y, I, as in neighbor and way, right? Examples are believe, field, achieve, receive, ceiling, and conceive, right? So you have EI after C, right? So remember these two. So that's why I put it like this on the slide, so you can revisit the video and or revisit this chart in the video just as a reminder, because it can be confusing, right? But you do have exceptions. Of course, we have a rule and we have exceptions. And I have them up there. Weird, W-E-I-R-D, seize, S-E-I-Z-E, and height, H-E-I-G-H-T. These are the rule breakers, right? Now, this is a classic spelling mnemonic, and it helps in most cases, but stay alert for pesky irregular words that break the pattern, like I just mentioned. And the rhyme-like structure of this mnemonic makes it easy to recall. I before E, except after C. And if you're unsure about the correct spelling of a word, think of this rule first, but remember the exceptions. Number 6, raven. Affect versus effect. Affect typically functions as a verb, while effect is usually a noun. Notice I didn't say always. Right? For example, your comments affect me deeply. Uses the verb form. But your comments have a deep effect on me switches to the noun form. By considering raven, you'll spend less time second guessing which word belongs in your sentence. So, raven, what does it mean? R for remember. A, affect, there's the verb. Effect, verb. Effect, noun. That's why I have these two sort of look like they're reversed, but they're not. This is not a mistake. And then noun, usually. So remember, that is the R for the mnemonic, raven. A for affect, which means it's a verb. V for when it's a verb as effect. And then effect when it's a noun. And then noun, usually. Right? If you remember that, you'll be okay. So now, number 7, let's just call it IVANC. This lists 8 parts of a speech, and I have 4 on the screen, but I'm going to give you the others as well. Those these parts, these 8 parts are interjection, verb, adjective, noun, conjunction, adverb, preposition, and pronoun. I'll repeat it once more. Interjection, verb, adjective, noun, conjunction, adverb, preposition, pronoun. For example, in this sentence, wow, she quickly wrote a short letter and placed it on the table. In this case, you can identify each word's part of the speech, right? There's enough words there that you can apply IVANC to it, and you should. Recognizing these categories makes grammar rules much more intuitive for you. He equals who. Him equals whom. Now, I will say this even for native English speakers who are not up to speed on their English, these can be confusing. So, he. Use who if you would use he. Him. Use whom if in that case, or in another case, you would use him. Both him and whom end with M. There's a nice way to remember it. Both him and whom end with M. So now, let's just take a look here. So here's an example. He is my teacher. Then the question is, who is your teacher? Notice how he and who are partners here. He is my teacher. Then the question that is being asked is, who is your teacher? On the other hand, if you answer, I saw him, the question becomes, whom did you see? I saw him. The question becomes, whom did you see? This method keeps you from mixing up these pronouns and helps you sound more polished and precise in formal context. Now, I'll be honest with you, ordinary everyday people might mix these up if they're even using whom, right? Because most of them will be using who. But when you're around people who are going to be, when I say higher level, I'm talking about in terms of education or business status, they will most likely be using the language correctly. So this will make you fit in much more easily. Mints. These are about capitalization rules. So on the screen, we see months. Always capitalize the names of months. I, the pronoun I is always capitalized in English. Names. We always capitalize names of people, places, and specific entities. And then titles. We capitalize titles like Mr., Mrs., and Doctor, etc. Now, will you sometimes see names or someone who's done something different and they'll show you something and it's different from these rules? Yes, you will. And they are incorrect in their usage of it, but they may actually be doing it for not because it's a typo, right? They're not doing it because they don't know. They may be doing it because they want the name or the image or whatever the example they're using to stand out. And as an English speaker, and in my case as a native English speaker, it will stand out to me because I know it's incorrect, but I understand that they're using it just as an example for a business purpose so that that name or that item will stand out more to me. All right. Next, we have the 5 W's, essential question words. Who, which identifies the person involved. What describes the action or event. When specifies the time of occurrence. Where indicates the location. Why explains the reason or purpose. These are the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. Often you'll see how, HOW, tacked on. These words form the backbone of information gathering and inquiry in English. So when writing or speaking in English, ask yourself which W applies to your situation. These question words help you structure interviews, gather research, or clarify details in everyday conversations. And another phrase you may hear is the open-ended questions. Well, these words will start an open-ended question. An open-ended question forces you as the answerer or the person answering to give more information beyond yes and no. So next, we have on a white bus. More subordinating conjunctions. On a white bus. So let's start with O. That stands for the word once. N stands for now that. A stands for although, or after, or as. W, that stands for when or whenever, where or wherever, while, and whereas. H stands for how. I is for if, T is for though, and E for even though or even if. So if for any reason you think that a native English speaker has all of these things down, you're wrong. And just like any other group of people, we have certain things in the language we use and certain things we use certain ways, etc. But I will assure you that even a native English speaker would be getting a lot out of this lesson. So this lesson is really very meaty, or has a lot in it for you as someone who is fine-tuning their English as a second language. Now, this is a mnemonic about subordinating conjunctions, giving you a comprehensive list. And I'll just give you an example. Even though we started late, we finished the project on time. Each subordinating conjunction clarifies a time relationship, a cause and effect link, or contrasting point, making your writing more nuanced. So if you're still reviewing the lesson, this is your first time, or maybe you've come back and visit, please do share in the comments what is standing out to you so far about the lesson and the content of it. Next, cups and arms. This is about editing and revising. Cups is about proofreading. Arms is about revising. So cups, capitalization, usage, punctuation, spelling. See, proofreading. In terms of arms, we have add, remove, move, and substitute, about revising. So think about this. After you draft your text, use cups to catch minor errors, scan for correct capitalization, ensure verbs agree with their subjects, verify the punctuation, and correct any misspellings. While cups focuses on polishing, arms helps you restructure content and then strengthen the clarity of what you're writing. So applying both ensures your final text is clear, cohesive, and error-free. Of course, having someone who understands English read it will also help, and also having an application such as Grammarly will also be beneficial. But you're not always going to have those things available. So make sure that you know cups and arms. So for when you're proofreading or have to proofread and revising. Dessert versus desert. Now, this is a spelling trick. Dessert, because of the two S's, notice I pronounce it differently. These letters, the two S's, signal that I'm talking about something sweet, some kind of treat, something to eat. Desert, one S, refers to a region like the Sahara or Gobi, what we would call in English an arid environment, ARID. For example, he enjoyed chocolate cake for dessert versus camels thrive in a desert environment. So this is a common spelling challenge for English learners, which, of course, makes sense. And that's why this mnemonic is here to help you with that. And then we have number 15, IE versus EG. These are Latin abbreviations. So mastering now these abbreviations makes your writing much more precise and helps you avoid common mistakes in formal texts. They appear in academic and informal writing, but many learners mix them up using this mnemonic, keeps them straight and enhances your writing clarity, and of course, makes your writing stand out and you stand out as being smarter and more intelligent, obviously. So IE is in essence or in other words. So if you were going to say in essence or in other words, you could use IE. Use this to clarify or restate precisely what you mean. For example, I have one pet, i.e., a gray cat named Smokey. Now, EG is actually for example. For example, you use this to introduce examples. So here's an example. I love to read fantasy novels, e.g., The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. Very simple, very straightforward. Okay, so now, mastering English grammar with mnemonics. You've received some versatile tools here today under the banner of mnemonics, and they are essential for streamlining. You can do it the hard way and try to memorize everything item by item, but being a good student means you understand how to use shortcuts, which is nothing wrong with that, how to use shortcuts to be bigger, faster, stronger. All right, let's say. So weave these mnemonics, pick some out to start with, and then over time more into your daily practice, and you'll gradually transform them into second nature. Now, over time, you'll spot potential errors more quickly and instinctively know which grammar rules to apply. Have patience with yourself, practice these tools, and use these tools often. You'll be well on your way to mastering English grammar. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you next time as we continue our linguistic adventure together. Take care, everyone.